The unassuming prisoner, the Zorathy prison complex on Keth-9, was a monument to efficiency and brutality. Warden Crix's forearms moved with practiced precision as he reviewed the latest batch of human prisoners. His species had perfected the art of breaking lesser beings, and humans were proving particularly useful for the dangerous mining operations that kept the Zorathy Empire's war machine running. The holding cells stretched endlessly through the underground complex, each one filled with the defeated remnants of human colonies that had dared to resist Zorathy expansion. Crix's compound eyes swept over the newest arrivals, cataloguing their potential uses. Engineers for technical work, doctors for medical experimentation, children for indoctrination, all standard procedure. That's when he saw her. Dr. Sarah Chen sat quietly in cell block 7, her back straight against the cold metal wall. Unlike the other prisoners who either cowered in fear or raged against their captivity, she appeared completely at peace. Average height, Asian features, graying black hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. The processing reports marked her as a xenobiologist captured during the raid on Research Station Omega-7. Nothing remarkable about her at all, but something made Crix pause. On the left side of her neck, partially hidden by her hair, was a small tattoo. A simple design that looked almost like a stylized eye within a triangle, with 3 small dots arranged beneath it. Crix had seen thousands of human markings over his decades of service, but this one felt different, familiar, somehow. "You there?" Human Crix called out, his translator rendering his chittering voice into standard galactic. "What is the meaning of that mark?" Sarah looked up with calm brown eyes. "Hello, Warden. I was wondering when you'd notice." Her voice carried no fear, no anger, just a quiet certainty that sent an unexpected chill down Crix's segmented spine. "My name is Dr. Sarah Chen. I'm a xenobiologist specializing in interspecies behavioral patterns. I didn't ask for your life story, prisoner. I asked about the mark." Sarah touched her neck gently. "Oh, this. It's just a little reminder of my actual job." She tilted her head slightly, studying Crix with the same intensity he might use to examine a particularly interesting specimen. "Your Zorathy subspecies, Keth variant, based on your coloration and mandible structure. Primarily insectoid physiology with some interesting adaptations for their desert homeworld. Am I correct?" Crix's mandibles clicked in annoyance. Silence. "You will speak only when questioned, of course. Though I should mention, you have approximately 6 hours before this becomes a much bigger problem for everyone involved." Something in her tone made Crix's stomach acids churn. He'd broken thousands of prisoners, but none had ever spoken to him like this, with such casual confidence, as if she knew something he didn't. "What are you talking about?" "The Watcher Protocol." "Naturally, though I suppose you wouldn't know about that. Most species don't, by design." Sarah leaned forward slightly, her expression becoming almost pedagogical. "You see, Warden, when humanity first encountered hostile alien species, we realized something important. We couldn't win through direct military confrontation. Too many species, too many fleets, too much firepower. But we could win through understanding." Crix activated his wrist communicator. "Security, run a deep scan on prisoner designation HC 7749. I want to know everything about her background." "Already done, sir," came the reply. "Standard colonist, no military training, no enhanced modifications. She's exactly what she appears to be." Sarah smiled. "That's the beauty of it, isn't it? I am exactly what I appear to be. A scientist, Teacher, someone who studies living things and how they behave. She paused, letting that sink in. The question is, what do you think I've been studying for the past 15 years? That night, Crix found himself in his private office, accessing classified intelligence databases. The symbol on Sarah's neck had triggered something in his memory, and he needed to know what. After hours of searching through restricted files, he found it. A single entry buried deep in the military intelligence archives. The file was labeled Unconfirmed Threats, Human Psychological Warfare Division. Most of it was redacted, but one paragraph made his blood run cold. Intelligence suggests the existence of a human program designated Watchers or Silent Guardians. These individuals appear to be embedded throughout human civilian populations, with no apparent military connection. They carry no weapons, hold no official rank, and appear on no military roster. Symbol I within triangle, 3 dots below. Threat assessment, theoretical, existence, unconfirmed. Crix's forehands trembled slightly as he read. Theoretical, unconfirmed. But if they were real, if they were actually out there, he made his way back to cell block 7, where Sarah sat in exactly the same position as before. She looked up as he approached, as if she'd been expecting him. "You've been researching," she observed. "Good. Education is the first step toward understanding." "What are you?" Crix demanded. "I told you, I'm a xenobiologist. I study alien species, their biology, their psychology, their behavior patterns. I'm particularly interested in predator-prey relationships and how they manifest in different cultural contexts." Sarah stood slowly, moving to the energy barrier of her cell. The Zorathi, for instance, evolved as apex predators on a world with limited resources. This created a psychology based on domination and exploitation. Fascinating from an academic perspective. You're trying to intimidate me with pseudo-scientific nonsense, am I? Sarah tilted her head. "Tell me, Warden, what do you know about Zorathi reproductive biology?" Crix's mandibles clicked in confusion. "What does that have to do with anything?" "Everything, actually. Your species reproduces through chemical triggers released during periods of high stress. The more threatened you feel, the more likely you are to enter a breeding cycle. It's a survival mechanism, but it also means your decision-making becomes increasingly impaired when you're afraid." Sarah's voice remained conversational, almost friendly. "Right now, I'd estimate your stress hormones are elevated by about 30%. By tomorrow, that number will be closer to 60%. By the end of the week, well, you're trying to manipulate me. I'm teaching you there's a difference." Sarah returned to her sitting position. "The Watcher protocol exists because sometimes the best way to protect something is to understand everything that might threaten it. We don't fight wars, Warden. We study our enemies until we know them better than they know themselves." Crix activated the communication system. "Security, I want round-the-clock monitoring on the human prisoner in cell block 7. Full sensor sweep every hour." "Already in place, sir. All readings normal." "Good. And run another background check. I want to know everything about her research, her publications, her associations." Sarah chuckled softly. "You won't find anything unusual. That's rather the point. We're not soldiers or spies, Warden. We're teachers who've learned to think in ways that make us very, very dangerous." The next morning, Crix received his first crisis report. 3 prisoners in Block 4 had somehow managed to reprogram their cell locks. Not broken them, not forced them, but actually rewritten the access codes. Security couldn't explain how it was possible. "Interesting," Sarah commented when Crix came to question her. I wonder if someone's been leaving educational materials around the facility. What educational materials? Oh, basic things. Electronics. Theory. Programming. Fundamentals. Zorathi security protocols. The kind of information that might help someone understand how your systems work. Sarah's expression was innocent, almost helpful. Of course, I've been in this cell the entire time, so I couldn't have been involved. Crix checked the surveillance footage. Sarah hadn't moved from her cell, hadn't spoken to anyone, hadn't done anything suspicious. But somehow, impossibly, 3 separate prisoner blocks had experienced identical security failures. By the afternoon, the prison's environmental systems had begun fluctuating. Nothing dangerous, just uncomfortable. The temperature in the guard quarters kept dropping, while the humidity in the processing centers rose to uncomfortable levels. Maintenance crews found nothing wrong with the equipment. Climate control is fascinating, Sarah mentioned during Crix's next visit, especially when you understand the psychological impact of environmental stress on different species. Zorathi, for instance, become increasingly aggressive when they're too cold, but they also become more suggestible. It's a delicate balance. How are you doing this? I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting here, thinking about things, about how systems work, how people behave, how small changes can have large consequences. Sarah met his eyes directly. Did you know that the Zorathi nervous system is particularly susceptible to subsonic frequencies? Not harmful, just ... educational. That night, Crix couldn't sleep. Every sound in the prison seemed amplified. Every shadow held potential threats. His stress hormones were indeed elevated, just as Sarah had predicted. He found himself checking and rechecking security reports, looking for patterns that might explain the growing chaos in his facility. The breakthrough came at dawn. A communication from the planetary defense grid requesting confirmation of authorization codes that had been transmitted from the prison. Codes that should have been impossible to access from inside the facility. Crix ran to cell block 7, where Sarah waited with the same calm expression she'd worn from the beginning. You're not just a xenobiologist, he said. No, I'm not. I'm a watcher. We're teachers who've learned to think in ways that make us very, very dangerous to anyone who threatens humanity. Sarah stood, approaching the energy barrier. The question now is whether you want to learn from me, or whether you want to discover what happens when a watcher stops being patient. Crix's communicator crackled to life. Reports were flooding in from across the prison complex. System failures, prisoner escapes, guard units reporting confusion and disorientation. And through it all, no violence, no weapons, no direct confrontation, just the steady, methodical dismantling of everything he'd built. 6 hours, Sarah said quietly. I told you that you had 6 hours. Time's almost up, Warden. What would you like to learn? Asterisk, the lesson begins. The alarm klaxons wailed through the prison complex as Crix stumbled through the control center, his 4 arms gesturing frantically at the cascade of failure reports flooding his screens. In the span of 12 hours, his perfectly ordered facility had descended into controlled chaos. Not violent chaos, which he could have understood and combated, but something far more insidious. Sir, we're receiving reports from orbital stations, his communications officer chittered. Nervously, similar system failures throughout the sector. The pattern is spreading. Crix's compound eyes focused on the main display, where a tactical map showed the growing scope of the crisis. Red indicators marked failing installations across 3 star systems, all connected by one common thread: human prisoners with small, seemingly insignificant tattoos. "How many?" he whispered. 47 confirmed incidents, sir. All featuring the same signature: unexplained system failures, prisoner relocations, and..." The officer paused, mandibles clicking in confusion. "Educational broadcasts replacing standard communication channels." In cell block 7, Sarah sat in meditation pose, her eyes closed in concentration. But Crix could see the slight smile playing at the corners of her mouth. She was listening to every word. "You're not just in this prison," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "You're everywhere." Sarah opened her eyes. "Not everywhere, just wherever we need to be." The Watcher Protocol was designed as humanity's ultimate insurance policy. "We don't fight wars, Warden. We make them unnecessary. By infiltrating our society, by understanding it, by learning everything about every species that might pose a threat to human colonies, by becoming so knowledgeable about your biology, your psychology, your technology, that we can predict and counter any aggressive action before it becomes dangerous." Sarah stood, moving to the energy barrier. "Did you know that Zorathy social structure is based on hierarchical dominance patterns that can be disrupted through specific psychological triggers?" As if summoned by her words, Crix's communicator erupted with reports from guard stations throughout the facility. Units were reporting confusion about their orders, conflicting directives, and a growing sense that their traditional command structure was somehow compromised. "You're not just studying us," Crix realized. "You're rewriting us. I'm teaching you. The question is whether you're willing to learn." Sarah's voice carried a new edge, still calm but with an undertone of steel. "The Zorathy Empire has enslaved 7 human colonies in the past 2 years. You've taken approximately 40,000 civilian prisoners. You've ignored every diplomatic overture, every peace offering, every attempt at negotiation." The lights in the cell block flickered, and for a moment Crix could have sworn he saw something move in the shadows. Not Sarah, she hadn't moved, but something else. Something that shouldn't have been there. "So we've been teaching you instead. Teaching your guards about human resilience. Teaching your technicians about system vulnerabilities. Teaching your leaders about the psychological costs of maintaining an empire built on suffering." Sarah approached the energy barrier, and Crix noticed for the first time that it seemed dimmer than before. "But most importantly, we've been teaching you about consequences." A new alarm joined the cacophony, this one from the prison's medical bay. Crix's personal physician appeared on the communication screen, his usually composed demeanor replaced by panic. "Warden, we're receiving reports of a psychological epidemic among the guard force. Symptoms include increased empathy, reduced aggression, and what can only be described as moral awakening. It's spreading through the entire facility." Sarah chuckled. "Zorathy neural chemistry is fascinating. Your species evolved with chemical inhibitors that suppress empathetic responses, allowing you to function as efficient predators. But those inhibitors can be neutralized through specific environmental triggers, subsonic frequencies, targeted pheromone releases, even carefully crafted visual stimuli. You're poisoning us. I'm curing you. There's a difference." Sarah's expression softened slightly. "The Zorathy weren't always conquerors, Warden. Your species' early history shows evidence of cooperative behavior, artistic expression, even primitive philosophy. The warrior caste system that dominates your society now is a relatively recent development." Crix felt something shifting in his own mind, a strange sensation he couldn't identify. For the first time in decades, he found himself questioning not just Sarah's words, but the entire foundation of his beliefs. The rightness of the empire, the necessity of conquest, the natural order that placed Zorothi above all other species. What are you doing to me? I'm showing you who you used to be, who you could be again. Sarah pressed her hand against the energy barrier, and Crix noticed that it offered no resistance. The field was still active, still humming with power, but somehow she could pass through it as if it weren't there. The Watcher Protocol isn't just about studying enemy species. It's about understanding the potential for change in every living being. The prison complex shuddered, and through the reinforced windows, Crix could see ships descending from orbit, not military vessels with weapons and armor, but civilian transports marked with the symbols of human educational institutions. The Terra University Research Division, the Interplanetary Ethics Council, the Human Cultural Exchange Program. My ride is here, Sarah said, stepping through the energy barrier as if it were nothing more than colored light. But before I go, I want to make sure you understand the lesson. She reached into her pocket and produced a small device, no larger than a communication chip. This contains everything we've learned about the Zarathi Empire over the past 15 years. Your military protocols, your psychological weaknesses, your technological vulnerabilities, even the genetic markers that control your breeding cycles. Every secret, every hidden truth, every carefully guarded piece of information that keeps your society functioning. Crix stared at the device in horror. You're going to use it against us. No, Sarah said gently. I'm going to give it to you. She placed the device in his trembling hands. Because the most dangerous thing humanity can do to its enemies isn't to destroy them. It's to show them a better way to live. The transport, beam activated, bathing Sarah in soft blue light. As she began to fade, her voice carried clearly through the prison complex, somehow audible to every prisoner, every guard, every administrator. The Watcher Protocol is ending its active phase. In this sector, all human civilians are being relocated to safety. All Zarathi personnel are being given a choice. Continue as you are and face the consequences of your actions. Or choose to learn, to grow, to become something better than conquerors. The light intensified, and Sarah's form began to dissolve, but her final words echoed through the facility, with absolute authority. Class dismissed. In the aftermath, as the transport ships departed with their human cargo, Crix found himself alone in his office with the device Sarah had given him. His hands shook as he activated it, revealing terabytes of information about his own species. Military secrets, psychological profiles, technological specifications, everything that made the Zorothi Empire function. But more than that, he found historical records, evidence of what the Zarathi had been before the warrior caste took control. Art, philosophy, science, poetry. A civilization that had once valued knowledge and beauty over conquest and domination. The device also contained detailed plans for social and political reform, step-by-step instructions for dismantling the Empire's oppressive structures and replacing them with something more equitable. Educational programs designed to help Zorothi overcome their psychological conditioning. Even medical treatments to neutralize the chemical inhibitors that suppress their natural empathy. It was everything they needed to transform their society. A complete blueprint for revolution, handed to them by the very people they had tried to enslave. Within a week, the changes began. Guard units throughout the prison complex started questioning their orders. Administrators found themselves implementing new policies focused on rehabilitation rather than punishment. The warrior caste's authority began to crumble as ordinary Zorathi discovered they no longer felt the compulsion to obey. The transformation wasn't without resistance. Conservative factions within the empire attempted to maintain the old order through force, but they found themselves fighting not just against rebels, but against their own people's growing awareness of what they had become. And through it all, Crix found himself at the center of the change. The device Sarah had given him became the foundation for a new Zorathi society, one based on education, cooperation, and mutual respect. The prison complex was converted into a research facility. The slave labor camps became agricultural cooperatives. The military academies began teaching conflict resolution alongside combat tactics. Years later, when the transformation was complete and the Zorathi had become valued members of the galactic community, Crix would often think about Sarah's final lesson. The most dangerous thing humanity could do to its enemies wasn't to destroy them. It was to show them a better way to live. The mark on Sarah's neck, that simple symbol of an eye within a triangle, had become the unofficial emblem of the new Zorathi society, a reminder that true strength came not from conquest, but from the courage to change. And somewhere in the vast galaxy, other watchers continued their patient work, teaching, learning, and quietly ensuring that humanity's greatest weapon remained not its military might, but its unwavering belief in the possibility of redemption. The silent guardians watched and waited and taught, and the galaxy slowly became a better place, one lesson at a time.